Her mother offered reassuring stories of her own first trip as the captain's wife, long years ago, and of the wonders she had seen on the voyage to Callao and the Chincha Islands. "There's nothing like the open deck on a warm, calm night at sea," she said. "The vastness of the heavens, the sense of being truly in God's hands." And her father chimed in with the time-honored chestnut, "There are no atheists at sea." The captain's wife lowered her hood and turned to gaze at her husband, who stood nearby, his legs apart, his face lifted, his eyes roving the stretched canvas, which talked to him about the wind. He was a young man, but he had been at sea since he was scarcely more than a boy, and had about him an older man's gravity. His dark eyes, accustomed to taking in much at a glance, were piercing. He was lean, strong, and steady. His frown could stop a conversation. His laughter lifted the spirits of all who heard him. After his first visit to the rambling house they called Rose Cottage, her father had announced, "Joseph Gibbs is as solid a seaman as I know. He keeps his wits about him." And now he kept his wife about him. She studied the sailors, absorbed in their labors, each one different from the others. One skittish, one bullying, another diffident, a shirker, a baller, a rapscallion, and a fool. Yet each at his task hearkened to the voice of the master. Doubtless her mother was right. They were all of them in God's hands, but should the Almighty turn away for a moment, every soul on this ship would shift his faith to the person of Captain Joseph Gibbs. "I'm going below," she said to him, and his eyes lowered and settled upon her. He smiled, nodded, turned to speak to the mate who was striding briskly toward them. Clutching the ladder rail, she backed down into the companionway, where she paused a moment, patting down her hair, before entering the cabin. There was, of course, no one there. For an hour she busied herself with sewing, for another in reading a volume of poems. The ship moved around her, above, beneath, rising and settling, picking up speed. A sensation of nausea, no more than a twinge at first, gradually announced its claim on her attention. She stood up, dropping the book on the couch, anxiously looking about the neat little room. She spied a pot hanging from a hook near the table. As she staggered to it, her stomach turned menacingly, and no sooner had she taken up the vessel than she emptied her breakfast into it. "Oh, Lord," she said, pulling out her handkerchief to wipe the perspiration from her brow. She carried the pot through to the cabin and poured the noxious contents into the bucket, then closed the lid and sat down upon it. The sailors, when so afflicted, had the option of vomiting over the side. But it wouldn't do for the captain's wife, who wasn't allowed anywhere near the main deck on her own. She pressed the handkerchief to her lips. Another eruption threatened. Best not stray far from this place, she counseled herself. She wondered how long it would last. It lasted 3 days, but during that time her stomach was the least of her problems. When at last the captain descended to find his wife flat on her back in the bunk, fully clothed, with a wet cloth draped across her forehead, it was to tell her that he didn't like the look of the western sky. For another hour she slept fitfully and woke to hear the officers talking in the wardroom. Her husband came in to ask if she wouldn't have a cup of tea, which she declined. The ship was pitching bow to stern, and he held onto the bed frame as he bent over to press his cool hand against her cheek. "My poor darling," he said, "you're pea green. What a way to begin your maiden voyage." At the word maiden, she smiled. It was a joke between them. "Don't worry about me," she said. There was a shout from the deck, a clatter of boots in the companionway. The captain made for the door. "Here it comes," he announced as he went out. It was a squall out of the northwest, which shifted to the southwest and blew a hard gale for 18 hours. A jib and a topgallant were carried away, as well as a rooster, last seen wings outspread, riding backward on a blast of spray. Gradually the wind abated, though the sea was still high, kneading the ship like bread dough between the waves. The captain's wife didn't witness the storm.